Hey, happy to be talking with Dave Myers today, the owner of Digital Broiler, a St. Louis-based SEO company. Dave's been in IT industry since 1990, developing software. Today we're talking about local SEO, why it's important, why you need to get on it, and how it'll help you win greater success in the future. So Dave, happy to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So give us a little bit of background about SEO and in layman's terms, really, like what's the value of it and why do you need to be doing it?
Sure. Well, I think the idea behind organic SEO traditionally has been obviously everybody wants to be found in search engines, right? So if you're not doing search engine optimization or SEO, you're missing part of the puzzle for the web. I think the whole idea behind it is you want people are finding they're not looking past pages 1 or 2 when they do a search online. So the idea is you've got to figure out how to get there above your competitors.
Staying in front of your competition, can you talk about that a little bit more, especially right now during coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think since this has all happened, more people have realized their online presence hasn't been quite what they thought it was. So they've found it probably more important now than ever that they need to beef that up. And everybody's looking to get to those positions. So you've got SEO is a long-term strategy. It's not an overnight solution that you're going to turn on and magically show up. And it involves everything from link building and citations, and great content is the big key to it. We see more and more websites that are built on simple builders like GoDaddy and Squarespace, and places that you really just can't do the SEO optimization things you need to do to be able to to work towards outranking your competitors. So to be able to do that is a very important thing, and have access to the back end of the website to be able to create the right keyword research, implement things right. And there's a structure of your website that has to be done properly, or you can do all the SEO in the world and it won't matter. So I really think right now is a important time for businesses to take a look at their organic SEO structure and see how they're doing. A lot of people really rely on pay-per-click, Facebook ads, things that definitely are part of an SEO strategy, but they're not the only thing that can happen, and it's not the only way that you're going to get results. And even spending thousands of dollars on those things doesn't mean you're getting the right people to your website as well. So
Talk about that a little bit more, getting the right people to your website, especially website part.
yeah, from the website perspective, I mean, it's I think the strategies, everybody thinks, all right, hey, I want to rank for those top 10 keywords that, the big ones. If I'm a landscape company, I want to rank for, lawn mowing and all these things. But there's a lot of other ways people, come into these websites these days. And just because we think they're searching for one term, you've got to do some, what we call keyword research and with some tools, and really identify how people are truly getting to these sites. Some people might type in lawn mowing service. Some people might be typing in, grass services. There's so many different iterations that not just one keyword is what generates the traffic to, to these different pages. So you really have to hone in and make sure that your content on these pages is created properly. And it's got to be written from an SEO perspective, not not necessarily the customer perspective, but yet it still has to read correctly.
When you're looking at a piece of content, what are you looking for specifically? What does it need to do, really?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it needs to describe the services. I mean, we see that really to get any type of a page to rank, in the old days they would tell you, hey, you got to have 1,500 words, 2,000 words, and nobody's going to read that, and that's not the point of it. The point of it back then was the more content you have, the better. But what we're really, seeing is that somewhere between 300 and 500 words written properly, written with the right aspect and the right tone, not only to the internet users but the business, is we can get those pages to rank properly doing it that way.
What are some of the other aspects of SEO that we don't really talk about besides just the written content, the on-page stuff? What else goes into SEO ranking?
Sure, lots of things. I mean, there's everything from how many links come into your website, how many links go out of your website, what kind of websites that are pointing to you. Is the domain authority high? And the more, the more links you have, people will tell you, the greater your website will rank. And that is a piece of the puzzle. But, the more high authority websites you have are probably more important than, 1,000 low authority websites. And so that's one piece. If you're a local business, it's critical to talk about, Google My Business and make sure your GMB page is optimized properly. That's a big thing because you want to be in the 3-pack of the maps. And then your outreach from there. So, from a local, you want business citations. So everything, things like, business directories, Yelp, Facebook, all those things. And you have to make sure that all those directories have all your information in sync. You want to make sure phone numbers are the same, addresses are the same, business names are the same, because I'll tell you 9 times out of 10, you go out and try to pull that data, and most people's stuff isn't synced up properly. And it's, while it sounds odd, everything has to be in a line, and one little thing out of alignment can cost you, a first page ranking.
And how does the website's performance rank in there, like accessibility or how fast the page loads? How does that affect your SEO?
Yeah, speed's important. We always try to get most of our websites loading in under 3 seconds. Not all are going to do that, just simply because sometimes they're a lot of home pages are big and people haven't optimized them, of course. So if not, obviously then that's another task. Go in, optimize images, make sure they're tagged properly. More just small SEO things, but people don't think about it. They upload their images and it's got the label image 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that means nothing to Google. Google reads everything left to right from the top of your page down. So you have to have your alt text tagged correctly, because Google can't read an image, as we know. But if it says, landscapers in Eureka, it identifies that with those cities. So it's, accessibility is important. Load speed is important. Mobility is important, right? I mean, if it's not mobile friendly and it doesn't format, people will leave that site faster than you can swing a stick at it.
If they leave the site too early, they're not going to convert. They're most likely not going to buy anything from your website, right?
Absolutely. Yep. 100%.
Which brings me to my next point. Let's talk a little bit about that little lockbox icon up in the URL bar. How important is that?
That is important, especially if you're an e-commerce site. You want to have that, because that tells people that your site's secure, that data is going to be encrypted properly, and it's important. Now, if you're an informational website, I can argue that it's not that important, but it's still, from Google's perspective, they want to see security. And especially in today's world with all the craziness, the last thing you want is, let's say you're a digital agency like us and you've got 100 websites on a server. The last thing you want is one of those not secure and somebody being able to hack in and ultimately get to everything. So it's a very important piece from the consumer eyes, because they like to know that they're going to a secure site. And so obviously, I mean, we make sure that happens on all of our sites. But I had one client this morning just magically was looking at upgrading a website. So we started to look on it. And then the first thing I saw was he's an e-commerce site and he didn't have a lock. And I'm like, really? I'm like, SEO, website security 101. Put your SSL certificate on there. It's cheap.
Absolutely. That's one of those ounce of prevention type things, right?
Right.
Aside from just data analytics, what other knock-on long tail effects can you build towards your SEO? Like how important is it to get people to become like an email newsletter subscriber or onto your customer list from your website?
Yeah, I think, that probably is more from a marketing standpoint, but I think any data that you can grab from your customers to be able to remarket to them is important. So whether you're doing Facebook pixels, you've got your analytics codes and everything, the more data you can collect, the better. If I can get their email and build an email list and I can market out to them once or twice a month, doesn't necessarily help my SEO, but that definitely helps my marketing efforts. Mm-hmm. And that's the name of the game, right? Marketing 101.
Absolutely. And if you're a dispensary, a cannabis dispensary, CBD dispensary, a medical marijuana licensing clinic, how much share should you put towards your local SEO efforts to stand out in a crowded market?
Well, I think it's imperative. You have to do it. If you're not doing it, you're surely relying on word of mouth. And to your point, I mean, they're popping up everywhere. And what makes Joe better than Bob and Bob better than Sue? Not necessarily anything. It really comes down to how do you market. And if somebody's looking for something or a dispensary or something, near them, you need to be in that 3-pack. You need to be in those top 5 local listings. And if you're not, you're definitely going to lose business. And if you're just solely relying on word of mouth and some paid ads, it's again, it's only a piece of the puzzle. And to do it right, local's local. And if you're not doing anything locally on the web, it's a big miss.
And finally, how does Digital Broiler and what you do bring this all together? Tell us a little bit more about how you guys win for your clients.
Yeah, our goal, of course, is to get everybody. We tell them if you're past page 2, you don't have a chance. And we report all of our rankings that we build for customers all the way down to position 20. After 20, we don't care. So we make sure that all keywords that we're working on or things that we're doing, that we get them in there. And I think one of the things that a lot of SEO companies don't provide to people is reporting, and reporting is key. And we've got one of our big things is we have an SEO guarantee that tells our customers that if we don't put at least 5 new relevant keywords in the mix each month, they don't have to pay us next month. And that's a big deal to put your money where your mouth is. And the reporting aspect of it is really what sets us apart. So you can see last month versus this month, and then you can see 2 months past versus your baseline. So you always see and you always know what's going on. And the other thing we do, we report the good and the bad. I mean, not every keyword's going to go up every month. It's not, it just doesn't, because things change. Algorithms change. There's over 900 Google algorithm updates a year. That's basically 3 a day that happens. And they're not all major updates. We've heard of Penguin and Panda and things like that, but they're updating their algorithm that many times a day. And so you've got to, you have to pay attention. And, our team that we've put together has been in this industry over 10 years in different places. And, it doesn't matter the industry we're working in. We figured out some of the formulas, and, everybody will tell you it takes 6 months, and I'll tell you the same thing, but you'll see results in the first 30 to 60 days with us almost every time. And it's something we kind of pat ourselves on the back for. And we don't price ourselves out of the ball game. We're very reasonably priced. We're fair. All industries are a little bit different, but the more crowded they get, the harder it gets, right? And so sadly, cost associates to that. But it's you have to fight to keep your position, and it's an ongoing battle, and it's a never-ending battle. It's not something, as too many people think SEOs that we'll do it. We'll do our on-page SEO and we're done, and that doesn't work. It's kind of like insurance. You got to do it every month, because the day you don't have it, somebody's going to hit your car and you're in trouble. And this is the same scenario. If you stop, there's 5 more people that want to jump over the top of you, and they're going to work to do it, and you'll drop.
And just to wrap this up, what would you tell a brand new brick and mortar, a startup, an e-commerce site? 3 absolute must-have, low-hanging fruit action items they have to do right now.
First thing I'd tell them is, when building your website, you get somebody that knows what they're doing. Don't go get a $15 a month builder from GoDaddy or Squarespace that you can drag and drop your stuff, because I promise you 6 months from now, you'll be kicking yourself. You cannot, with most of those builders, you cannot do the proper SEO things you need to do. Structurally, it needs to be built properly, page to page, and that's one of the biggest mistakes I see. Everybody wants the cheap website to get up and running as fast as possible, and then it ends up biting them in the rear later. So that's step one: build your website properly. Step two would be make sure you create and get your Google My Business page up, get it claimed, get it set up properly, get it optimized properly. If you don't know how to do it, you come to somebody like us, and then we'll help all those things. And then thirdly, get your organic SEO started from the day you start, because especially if you have a new domain, you're at ground zero, and it'll take you 6 to 12 months for Google to even really believe you're a player in the game on a new domain. And so that requires the organic SEO that provides trying to get more and more content, blog as much as you can, or hire somebody to blog like us. Well, we can write blogs for you, things like that, because the more content and the more you can prove to Google that you're a player, the faster you'll get up the ranking chains.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your knowledge and expertise. This has been fantastic. Thank you.
I appreciate it.